I found my credit card burned out, $29,000 missing before my birthday. My mom snapped the family needed it more. My phone buzzed at 2:47 a.m. with a Chase Bank alert that made my blood run cold. Declined, insufficient funds. Current balance, $29,832.19. I sat bolt upright in my apartment, staring at the screen like the numbers might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. My name is Emerson Clark, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered the truth about my family through a notification that shattered everything I thought I knew about love. The room felt smaller suddenly, the walls pressing in as I refreshed the app again and again. Same number. Same devastating reality. $36,000, gone. Not spent by me, not authorized by me, just vanished. I called the fraud hotline first, my hands shaking as I navigated the automated system. Please hold while we review your account. The hold music was cheerful, almost mocking. When the representative finally came on, her voice was professionally sympathetic. Ma'am, I see multiple large withdrawals and transfers over the past month. The transactions appear to be authorized through your mobile banking app and debit card. Do you recognize any of these charges? I scrolled through the list she read. $8,500 to Denver Mortgage Solutions, $4,200 to Rocky Mountain Auto Repair, $3,800 to University of Colorado Hospital, $12,000 in cash withdrawals from various ATMs across Denver. Denver, where my parents lived, where I hadn't been in 6 months. Ma'am, are you still there? I need to call you back. My hands were trembling as I hung up. There was only one way they could have accessed my account. Only one explanation that made my stomach twist into knots. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I'd been calling every Sunday for the past 15 years. Dad answered on the third ring, his voice thick with sleep. Emerson? Honey, it's almost 3 a.m. What's wrong? Dad, something's happened to my account. My credit card is maxed out and my checking account is overdrawn by almost $40,000. Did something happen in Denver? Did you? Hold on. I heard rustling footsteps, then Mom's voice in the background asking what was going on. Put it on speaker, David. Let me talk to her. The sound quality changed, and suddenly I could hear the TV in the background, some late-night infomercial selling kitchen gadgets. Normal sounds. Family sounds. Sounds that used to comfort me. Emerson, sweetie, Mom's voice cut through, sharp with that familiar edge of impatience. You're being dramatic again. We had some emergency expenses come up. Your father's back surgery, remember? And Garrett Silverado broke down right before his job interview. We couldn't let him lose that opportunity. My brother Garrett, 28 years old and still letting our parents solve his problems. But you didn't ask me, I whispered. You just took it. Dad's voice returned, louder now, defensive. Look, we raised you. We fed you, clothed you, put you through college. You owe us. This is just family taking care of family. The words hit me like a physical blow. You owe us. Not we're sorry, not we'll pay you back, but you owe us. I don't understand, I said, my voice barely audible. It's my birthday next week. I was planning to. Planning to what? Mom interrupted, her laugh bitter and cold. Buy yourself some expensive dinner? Take another one of your little spa weekends? Emerson, we needed this money for real problems. Adult problems. You can celebrate your birthday when we're not losing the house. The silence that followed felt like drowning. I stared out my window at the skyline, at the life I'd built here, at the independence I thought I'd earned. Don't call me again, I said quietly. Emerson, don't be ridiculous. I hung up. And that's when I realized, I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their ATM. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, a cup of coffee, and a growing sense of clarity that felt sharp as a scalpel. If they wanted to treat me like a bank, I was about to foreclose. The first call was to Chase Bank. I need to report unauthorized access to my accounts. But ma'am, earlier you said the transactions were possibly authorized by family members? No, I said firmly. I said they were made by people who had access to my information without my permission. That's identity theft. The representative's tone shifted. I understand. We'll begin the fraud investigation immediately. You'll need to file a police report as well. Police report. The words felt strange in my mouth, but I wrote them down anyway. Next, I logged into every account, every service, every subscription. The trail of financial abuse was staggering. They'd been siphoning money for months, smaller amounts I hadn't noticed, building up to this final devastating blow. The mortgage payment they'd made? The house was in my name. I'd co-signed when Dad's credit couldn't qualify, back when I thought I was helping family achieve the American dream. My credit score had made their dream possible. Garrett's truck payment? I was the co-signer there too. His job at the construction company downtown, the one he couldn't afford to lose? I'd guaranteed his loan. Mom's student loans from her brief attempt at nursing school 3 years ago? My signature was on those documents as well. I wasn't just their daughter. I was their financial foundation, their safety net, their co-signer for everything they couldn't achieve on their own merit. And they'd been mining my credit, my trust, my future without ever asking how I felt about being their personal lending institution. My phone buzzed. A text from Garrett. What's going on? Mom's crying, saying you're going to ruin everything over money. It's not that serious. I stared at the message. Not that serious. $36,000 wasn't serious. My financial security wasn't serious. My trust wasn't serious. I typed back, check your truck payment status. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. What do you mean? I was already on the phone with Colorado State Bank. Hi, I need to remove myself as co-signer on a vehicle loan. Account number. I read off Garrett's information from my files. Ma'am, removing yourself as co-signer requires either full payment of the loan or refinancing with a qualified borrower. The primary borrower would need to qualify independently. And if they can't qualify? Then the vehicle would need to be returned to avoid default. I understand. Please send me the paperwork to begin the removal process. I hung up and immediately called the mortgage company. Same conversation. Same outcome. Without my credit score backing them, they'd have 30 days to refinance or face foreclosure proceedings. My phone rang. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mom called. Voicemail. Garrett. Voicemail. Mom again. This time I answered. Sinclair Clark, you stop this nonsense right now. You're going to make us lose everything. You already lost everything, Mom. You lost it the moment you decided to steal from me. We didn't steal. We're family. Family helps family. Family asks for help. Family doesn't break into bank accounts at 2 a.m. and drain their daughter's life savings. Your father needed that surgery. Then you should have called me. You should have explained. You should have asked. Instead, you decided I was your property, and my money was your money, and my credit was your credit. We raised you to be better than this selfish. You raised me to fix your problems. There's a difference. I hung up and immediately called my wireless carrier. I need to remove 2 lines from my family plan. Mom and Dad's phones. Cut off within the hour. Then Netflix. I need to change my password and remove authorized users. Amazon Prime. Same thing. Hulu, Spotify, my gym membership that Dad had been using, my Costco membership that had been funding their groceries for 2 years. I severed every digital cord that connected us. My laptop screen showed a spreadsheet I'd created, financial entanglements. The list was longer than I'd expected. Longer than any daughter should have with her parents. By noon, my phone was buzzing constantly. Calls, texts, voicemails. The panic in their voices was growing. But I felt something I hadn't felt in years, free. The last call I made was to my credit monitoring service. I need to freeze my credit immediately. Any particular reason, ma'am? I looked at the photo on my mantle, last Christmas, all of us smiling around their tree. The tree I'd bought. In the house I'd co-signed for. Wearing clothes I'd helped pay for. Identity theft, I said. By people I trusted. And that's when I knew, I wasn't just changing my passwords. I was changing my life. My phone had been buzzing for 3 straight hours when someone started pounding on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole and saw exactly what I'd expected. Dad, red-faced and furious, Mom behind him in her favorite purple cardigan, the one I'd bought her for Mother's Day, holding tissues like props. Sin. Open this door right now. Dad's voice echoed through the hallway. We need to talk. I sat on my couch, sipping the tea I'd made from the expensive loose leaf blend I'd never been able to afford when I was funding their lifestyle. The irony wasn't lost on me. We know you're in there. Mom's voice joined in, higher pitched, more desperate. The bank called. They're taking the house. How could you do this to us? How could I do this to them? I almost laughed. Almost. Riley, please. The name made me flinch. She was using my childhood nickname, the one reserved for when they needed something. We're family. We can work this out. I opened my laptop and pulled up the police report I'd filed that morning. Incident number 2024, Chi 45789. Financial fraud by family members. The officer had been surprisingly sympathetic. This happens more than you'd think, Officer Martinez had said. Family members often have access to accounts and think that means they have permission. The law doesn't see it that way. The pounding continued. Emerson, your father's leg is still healing. You can't just throw us out on the street. I stood up and walked to the door, pressing my palm against the wood. For a moment, I almost opened it. Almost fell back into the pattern of fixing, of smoothing over, of being the solution to their problems. Instead, I spoke through the door. You threw yourselves out when you stole from me. We didn't steal. Dad's voice cracked. We took what we needed from someone who had plenty. You make 6 figures. You live in this fancy apartment. You don't even have kids. What do you need all that money for? What do I need it for? I thought about my retirement account, depleted from their emergencies. My emergency fund, wiped out by their temporary needs. The vacation I'd been planning, the down payment I'd been saving for my own house, the financial security I'd worked 60-hour weeks to build. I need it to live my life, I said. Not yours. Mom's voice got smaller, more manipulative. Sweetheart, we're not asking for charity. We're asking for help. We gave you everything when you were growing up. You gave me trauma and debt. The words came out louder than I'd intended. You taught me that love was conditional on what I could provide. You turned me into your personal bank account. Silence. Then whispers I couldn't make out. My phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Brooklyn. Hey, heard about the drama. Mom says you're being really harsh. They're just scared. I typed back, they were scared of asking for help, so they committed fraud instead. That's not my problem anymore. 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Then, but it's family. Family doesn't steal from each other, I replied. And family doesn't guilt-trip the victim. No response. The pounding on my door resumed, more frantic now. Emerson, please. We'll pay you back. We just need time. I pulled up my banking app and looked at the pending fraud charges. The bank had already reversed 2 of the transactions, and I'd gotten a temporary credit for the rest while they investigated. For the first time in months, my account showed a positive balance. You've had 33 years to treat me like a daughter instead of a debit card, I called through the door. Time's up. You're being cruel. Mom sobbed. This isn't who we raised you to be. I walked back to my couch and sat down. You're right, I said, loud enough for them to hear. You raised me to be a doormat. But I'm not her anymore. The hallway went quiet. I heard footsteps retreating, then Dad's voice from farther away. This isn't over, Emerson. Family doesn't give up on family. But I wasn't giving up on family. I was giving up on being their unpaid financial advisor, their emergency fund, their cosigner, their safety net. I was giving up on being everything except what I'd always wanted to be, their daughter. After they left, I called my therapist's emergency line. Dr. Patterson? It's Emerson. I think I need to schedule some extra sessions. I just set some boundaries with my family, and I think I'm finally ready to talk about why it took me 33 years to do it. Her voice was warm, unsurprised. I'm proud of you. And yes, let's talk. Healing starts with saying no to what's hurting you. I hung up and looked around my apartment, paid for with my money, decorated with my choices. For the first time in years, it felt like home. The group chat notification popped up at 8:47 p.m., Clark family updates, 15 new messages. I hadn't even known there was a family group chat without me. Brooklyn had added me to show me what they were saying. Aunt Linda, Emerson has lost her mind. Poor David and Nancy are practically homeless. Cousin Trevor always knew she was selfish. Success went to her head. Uncle Pete, she owes them everything. They sacrificed so much for her education. Garrett, my truck got repossessed today. Thanks, sis. Really showing that family spirit. I screenshot every message and sent them to my lawyer. Adding these to the harassment file, I texted him. His response was immediate, smart. This supports the financial abuse pattern. How are you holding up? How was I holding up? I was holding up like someone who just realized she'd been drowning for years and finally reached the surface. It hurt, but I could breathe. Brooklyn messaged me privately, I'm sorry about the group chat. I thought you should see what they're saying, but maybe that was wrong. No, it was right. I need to know who I'm dealing with. They're scared. Dad's talking about the house going into foreclosure next month if they can't get a loan. And Garrett's back to taking the bus to work. I stared at her message. Part of me, the old part, the trained part, wanted to swoop in and fix everything. Transfer money, make calls, smooth it over like I'd done 1,000 times before. Instead, I typed, they're experiencing the natural consequences of their choices. That's not cruelty. That's reality. But what if they really lose everything? Then they'll figure it out. Adults do. 3 dots appeared and disappeared for a full minute. Then, you're different. I'm healing. The next morning brought a voicemail from Mom, her voice shaky and small. Emerson, honey, I know you're angry, but we need to talk. The bank wants to foreclose in 3 weeks. We've been trying to get a loan, but without your credit. Please, just call me back. We're desperate. Desperate. The word used to send me running to fix whatever crisis they'd created. Now it just made me sad that it had taken desperation for them to acknowledge what they'd done. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove to Lincoln Park and walked along the lakefront, watching joggers and dog walkers and couples sharing coffee. Normal people living normal lives, not carrying the weight of other people's financial disasters. My phone rang. Dr. Patterson, returning my call from yesterday. How are you feeling about the confrontation? She asked. Guilty, I admitted. They're losing their house. The house that's in your name? Yes. The house they couldn't qualify for without using your credit? Yes. Emerson, what would have happened if you'd never co-signed for that house? I thought about it. They would have found something they could afford, or rented, or figured out another solution. Exactly. By co-signing, you enabled them to live beyond their means. And now they're facing the reality they would have faced years ago if you hadn't intervened. But they're my parents. They are. And parents are supposed to protect their children's financial future, not exploit it. You're not responsible for fixing the mess they created by misusing your trust. After the call, I sat on a park bench and did something I hadn't done in months. I checked my retirement account balance. Without their constant emergencies, I'd managed to contribute the maximum for the year. My savings account was growing. My credit score was excellent. I was 33 years old, and for the first time in my adult life, I was financially stable. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is your father. Your mother is in the ER. Anxiety attack. Hope you're happy. I stared at the message. The old me would have panicked, would have called the hospital, would have driven to Denver immediately. The new me recognized the manipulation. I forwarded the text to Dr. Patterson with a note. Is this what emotional blackmail looks like? Her response, textbook example. How do you want to handle it? I thought for a moment, then typed back to the unknown number. I hope Mom gets the help she needs. Professional help. Then I blocked the number. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I made dinner plans with friends. Real friends. People who knew me as Emerson the marketing director, not Emerson the family ATM. You seem different, my friend Zoe said over sushi. Lighter somehow. I cut some toxic people out of my life, I said. Good for you. Life's too short to carry other people's baggage. She had no idea how literally I'd taken that advice. 3 weeks later, my doorbell rang at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. I wasn't expecting anyone, and after the last family ambush, I'd grown cautious about unexpected visitors. Through the peephole, I saw a stranger, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a nervous smile. She was holding a manila envelope. Can I help you? I called through the door. Are you Emerson Clark? I'm Patricia Hoffman from Denver Family Services. I have some documents regarding your parents' housing situation. My stomach dropped. I opened the door slowly, keeping the chain latch engaged. Documents. Your parents listed you as their emergency contact and next of kin. They've applied for emergency housing assistance, but the application process requires family members to sign off on their financial status. They claim they have no assets, but there are some discrepancies we need to clarify. I unlatched the door fully. What kind of discrepancies? Patricia stepped inside, her expression professional but sympathetic. According to their application, they have no income, no assets, and no family support. But our investigation shows a house in foreclosure with your name as co-signer, vehicle loans with your guarantee, and multiple credit accounts with you as an authorized user or co-applicant. She handed me the envelope. We need you to sign this affidavit stating whether you're currently providing financial support to David and Nancy Clark. I opened the envelope and read the form. It was straightforward. Are you currently providing financial assistance to the applicants? If no, explain why assistance is not available. If I sign this saying I'm not providing support, what happens to their application? They'll need to provide accurate information about their financial situation. If they've been dishonest about having family support available, their application could be denied. I thought about Mom's voicemail from yesterday. Emerson, we're staying in a motel. It's $40 a night we don't have. Please, just call me back. We need help. And Dad's text, your mother is sick from stress. This is what happens when daughters abandon their parents. And Garrett's Facebook post I'd seen, some people get successful and forget where they came from. Family should come first. Can I ask you something? I said to Patricia. In your experience, do you see a lot of families where adult children are expected to financially support their parents? She sighed. More than you'd think. And it's not always healthy. Sometimes parents become financially dependent on their children in ways that prevent everyone from building stable, independent lives. What would you do if you were me? Patricia looked uncomfortable. I can't give personal advice, but I can tell you that enabling someone to avoid the consequences of their choices isn't always kindness. Sometimes it's the opposite. After she left, I sat at my kitchen table with the unsigned form in front of me. My phone had been buzzing with calls from Denver area codes all morning. I'd ignored them all. Finally, I answered one. Emerson. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Thank God. We're at the Sunset Motel on Colfax. Room 127. We've been here for 5 days. There are unsavory people here. Your father's scared to leave me alone. Mom. The social worker came by yesterday. She says we need to prove we don't have family support to get emergency housing. We told her you'd cut us off completely. We told her you wouldn't help your own parents. Her voice broke. We had to lie, Emerson. We had to lie and say our daughter abandoned us. The words hit me like a slap. You didn't lie. I did cut you off. I cut you off because you stole from me. We didn't steal. You accessed my bank account without permission and took $36,000. In any court of law, that's theft. Silence. Then quietly, we raised you. You did. And somewhere along the way, you decided that gave you ownership of my adult life. It doesn't. So what are we supposed to do? Live on the street. I looked at the affidavit again. You're supposed to figure it out. Like every other adult in America figures it out. Get jobs. Find an apartment you can afford. Apply for assistance based on your actual situation, not lies about your family abandoning you. We're in our 60s, Emerson. Who's going to hire us? I don't know, Mom, but that's not my problem to solve anymore. I could hear her crying. Please. We're begging you. Just help us get into an apartment. We'll pay you back. With what money? You haven't worked steady jobs in years. You've been living off my credit and my co-signatures. This is what financial independence looks like. It's scary, but it's also honest. You're heartless. I'm healthy. There's a difference. I hung up and signed the affidavit. I am not currently providing financial support to the applicants. Support is not available because the applicants committed financial fraud against me, and I have terminated all financial relationships with them to protect my own economic stability. I mailed it that afternoon. That night, Garrett called from his own number. They're really struggling. Mom's talking about dark things. Like maybe everyone would be better off if she weren't around. My blood ran cold. Is she threatening to hurt herself? She's really depressed. And Dad's not much better. Their whole world is falling apart. Then they need professional help. Mental health services. Not money. Come on, Em. You could fix this with one phone call to your bank. I could enable it with one phone call. I can't fix it. They have to want to fix it themselves. So you're just going to let them be homeless? I took a deep breath. I'm going to let them be adults. For the first time in my life, I'm going to let them face the consequences of their choices without swooping in to rescue them. That's cold. That's growth. After I hung up, I called the Denver Crisis Hotline and gave them the name and location of the motel where my parents were staying. If Mom was having suicidal thoughts, she needed professional intervention, not financial bailouts. Then I did something I'd never done before. I prayed for them. Not for their situation to improve, but for them to find the strength and wisdom to improve it themselves. It was the most loving thing I'd ever done for them, even though they'd never see it that way. 6 months passed before I heard from them directly again. 6 months of peace, of therapy sessions, of actually having money in my savings account. 6 months of learning who I was when I wasn't constantly putting out fires I didn't start. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was making dinner, actual dinner, not the ramen and takeout that used to constitute my meals when every spare dollar went to their crises. Emerson. The voice was Dad's, but quieter than I remembered. Older. Hi, Dad. A pause. Can we talk? We're talking now. I mean really talk. In person. We're in Chicago. My hand tightened on the phone. Where in Chicago? The lobby of your building. We've been here for an hour. The doorman says he can't let us up without your permission. I looked out my window at the early evening traffic, the city lights just beginning to twinkle. My sanctuary, my space, my peace. And they were downstairs. What do you want, Dad? To apologize. To try to fix this. You can apologize from the lobby. Immerse in, please. We drove 16 hours to get here. We just want 5 minutes. I thought about Dr. Patterson's words from our last session. You get to choose when and how you engage with them. You're not required to accept every olive branch, especially if it's not offered in good faith. Are you here to ask for money? I asked. No. We're not here for money. Are you here to guilt me into resuming financial support? A longer pause. No. Are you here to tell me how much I've hurt you by setting boundaries? Immerse in. Because if you're here for any of those reasons, you can turn around and drive back to Denver. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. We know. His voice cracked. That's why we're here. We need to tell you some things. Things we should have said a long time ago. Against my better judgment, I buzzed them up. They looked older when they stepped off the elevator. Dad's hair was grayer, his shoulders more stooped. Mom looked smaller somehow, wearing a coat I didn't recognize, not one I'd bought her. Your apartment is beautiful, Mom said softly, looking around at the space I'd furnished with my own money, my own taste, my own choices. Thank you. Sit down. They perched on my couch like visitors, not like parents who'd once felt entitled to everything I owned. Dad cleared his throat. We got jobs. I blinked. Jobs. Your mother's working at a grocery store. I'm doing maintenance at an apartment complex. The pay isn't great, but it comes with a small unit in the building. That's good. Mom spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. We went to counseling. Financial counseling and regular counseling. The therapist helped us understand some things. Like what? Dad shifted uncomfortably. Like how we treated you. Not just the money thing. Everything. Since you were a kid. I felt my defenses rising. Okay. You were 12 when we first asked you to get a job, Mom continued. 12. Because we couldn't manage our money and we were scared of losing the electricity. I remember. That's when it started. When we started treating you like our financial plan instead of our daughter. Dad's hands were shaking slightly. The therapist asked us to make a list of all the times we'd asked you for money or used your credit or expected you to fix our problems. The list was... the list was 8 pages long. I said nothing. We stole your childhood, Mom said, tears rolling down her cheeks. We stole your young adulthood. We stole your sense of security and your ability to trust people. We stole $36,000, but that wasn't even the worst thing we took from you. What was the worst thing? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. You're right to be our daughter, Dad said. We turned you into our parent. We made you responsible for keeping us afloat, and then we got angry when you couldn't do it anymore. The silence stretched between us. I could hear the city humming outside my windows, life continuing as normal while my world shifted again. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because we don't want to die with this between us, Mom said. Because you deserve to hear us say that we were wrong. That we used you. That we hurt you. And that we're sorry. The apartment is small, Mom continued. 1 bedroom. We're learning to live within our means for the first time in, well, maybe ever. It's hard, but it's honest. I'm glad, I said, and meant it. We know we can't undo what we did, Dad said. We know we can't go back to being a normal family. We know you may never trust us again. But we wanted you to know that we understand now. What we did to you wasn't love. It was selfishness dressed up as family obligation. I felt something loosening in my chest, a knot I'd carried for so long I'd forgotten it was there. Thank you for saying that, I said. We brought you something. Mom reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. It's not much. $50. From our first paychecks. We know it's nowhere near what we owe you, but we wanted to start paying you back. Even if it takes the rest of our lives. I took the envelope but didn't open it. You don't have to. Yes, we do, Dad said firmly. We do have to. Not because you need the money, but because we need to do right by you. Finally. They stood to leave, and I felt a moment of panic. Not because I was losing them, but because I wasn't sure what came next. Can I ask you something? I said. Anything. Do you still think I owe you? Because you raised me. Mom and Dad looked at each other, then back at me. No, Mom said. We owe you. We owe you an apology, a debt we can never fully repay, and the space to decide whether you want us in your life. On your terms. Not ours. After they left, I sat in my quiet apartment, holding the envelope. Inside was a $50 bill and a note, the first of many. We love you enough to let you go. Mom and Dad. I put the money in a jar on my kitchen counter. Not because I needed it, but because it was the first honest thing they'd given me in 20 years. It was a start. 2 years later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop in downtown Chicago on my 35th birthday, reading a text from Mom, "Happy birthday, sweetheart." No strings attached. Just love. The jar on my kitchen counter now holds $1,847 in small bills, money they've sent me in increments of $20, $50, sometimes just $5, along with notes that never ask for anything in return. They're keeping their promise to pay me back, even though I told them it wasn't necessary. My phone buzzes again. A photo from Dad, him and Mom in their tiny apartment, holding a birthday cake with "Happy Birthday Emerson" written in Mom's careful handwriting. They're smiling, but it's a different kind of smile than I remember. Quieter. More genuine. We talk once a month now. Short calls, usually about their work or the weather or the neighbors in their building. Normal things. Parent-child things that don't revolve around crises or money or what I can fix for them.